The following organizations have provided funding for this Into the Outdoors television series.
Recycling.
Where does it go?
That bit in the back. More recycling.
Jeez.
Yeah, we do a pretty good job around
Hey,
here.
hurry up! The recycling truck is coming.
Look, we gotta go. Dunks and you base.
Goodbye, homework.
Now that's some serious recycling.
You think that's a lot?
Guess how much waste you produce?
If you're an ordinary person, you produce 1,700 pounds of this each year.
Ooh. And guess where all that goes?
What's the impact of your waste for our resources and our world?
The answer affects your life and the health of planet Earth.
So join us as we discover the truth about what happens to your waste
And how you can join us by becoming more responsible for your waste, by becoming stewards.
Oh yeah.
Grab your gear and let's explore as we discover the wild outdoors. Science, discovery is what we do. You can make our Earth a brighter, better place by joining us in this wide open space. Into the outdoors.
Oh my, this waste issue is a lot bigger than I thought. Hey Cedric, see what you can find out about the landfill while I decode the data streams coming into mission control.
Gotcha. I see some professionals over there that probably know what's going on. Me and the camera here, we'll get the scoop. Okay, we're rolling.
As a society, we've become really removed from our garbage, from our waste. We've done a really good job as an industry of taking care of your stuff, and probably too good of a job. So everybody just forgets about it.
When your mom tells you to take out the trash, I want you to actually see where it ends up and the amount of environmental integrity and resources that are used to manage that waste.
First, we need to define what's waste. Uh-oh, the system's going crazy. What? Hey, Cedric, I've got some bad news. Everything we create and consume eventually turns into waste, and way too much of it is headed your way. And despite wishful thinking, garbage fairies don't magically take all the waste to some distant dump in La La Land.
No kidding. This place is serious. By the looks of some of the technology here, I don't think it's a dump.
20 or 30 years ago, it was a dump. We threw things in a hole that was not lined, and we burned it oftentimes and buried it. That was it.
So they were unlined facilities. Things like stormwater or any liquids in the waste migrated through the waste. They pick up contaminants and they contaminate groundwater. They also, as waste decomposes, it generates gas, and those facilities were not capped. Gas would emit into the atmosphere, affecting air quality. Landfills generate a lot of methane, and that is a greenhouse gas, so it affects climate change and global warming. Today, though, landfills are a lot different. They're highly engineered systems.
And it's engineered to protect the environment, especially both groundwater and the air. So we're trying to control any, we call it leachate, we're trying to control any liquids that may try to get out of the landfill. We're trying to control any gases. So if you cut through that landfill and you look from the bottom up, you have your groundwater underneath, your virgin soils, and then we start the engineered part. So we'll often put an under drain in there to prevent any liquids from trying to come up and damage the landfill. And then we have 4 feet of compacted clay. And that's very specific clay to make sure that no liquids can get through there. That's just one part of that containment. Above that, then we have a welded plastic membrane. So every single seam of that is fusion welded. Every single joint of that weld is pressure tested to make sure it doesn't leak. Then we do a rub sheet that kind of protects that geomembrane. We push a drainage stone over top of that, so that allows liquids, once they come down through the liquids, they start coming down to hit that stone, they're able to drain out to pipes, and we can pump it out of this facility to a treatment facility. Then we have the drainage stone, then we start to put the waste in. As you get to the very top, you're at your final grades. We basically take that and flip it upside down. Everything we did in the liner, virtually, we do on the top now. We have protective soils, we have a thick layer of clay, we have another layer of plastic that's all welded together again. We have a barrier layer to protect that plastic, and then we plant grasses on top of it. Keep in mind, many of these landfills are 50, 100, 200 acre sites, and you have to have that liner and that cap across that whole area. and that's all welded or seamed together at the edges, so we like to joke it's like a big Ziploc bag. We're keeping gases from coming out the top, we're keeping liquids from being able to get out the bottom.
Protecting the environment's no joke. Your engineering plan sounds good, but how do you know if it's really working?
We do a lot of the monitoring for the landfill facilities, so that includes groundwater monitoring. You're making sure that the systems that are in place are working. You're not having leakage through the liner system.
Leakage? How important is it to check for that?
The most important thing for life, really, for anybody to survive, is water. I have to admit it to you, landfills actually generate dirty liquid. It's called leachate. If it ever reaches the groundwater, this groundwater will be contaminated.
What the groundwater wells that are being installed behind us do right now is they're crucial as your sentinels to let you know anytime there's been any contamination that's been released, possible leak in your liner, possible overflow. These are monitored for the various parameters.
I'm glad you're doing that part. Man, there's so much stuff going in here. How much can this place hold?
We're the regional landfill, and we take in just over 2,000 tons a day of municipal and commercial and industrial waste. A life of a landfill in a community of our size is so critically important, even with our landfill diversion, resource recovery, and those banned recyclables.
We're running out of space to put things. We're running out of space to put garbage. And honestly, I don't want to find more space to put garbage. So the importance of compaction is to get the most garbage in the least amount of space. So if we do that, we can have more room for forests and more room for open water and less room for landfills. And by doing that, we'll have more environment for the future generations. But on almost every single load, there is recyclables. There's plastic containers, there's paper, there's cardboard. Some loads, it's all recyclables. And it's very disheartening to see that we have other streams. We make it so easy for people to recycle at their home, at their curbside. Maybe they don't see the fact that they can make a difference.
You can help Abby and make our landfills last longer by becoming stewards.
Clearly that affects everyone and the planet.
Hey, did you ever wonder why we generate so much waste? Because our planet belongs to all of us. Everybody's waste is everyone's problem to solve, right? And clearly landfills aren't the end of all solutions. So how do we become more responsible stewards with our waste? It all begins at the top of the waste management hierarchy, with source reduction and reuse.
We're a throwaway society, so everything is made new every day. So there's all these things that we just don't even think about, we throw it in the garbage. And I like to joke, it goes out to the curb and the garbage fairies take it away and we never see it again, right? But it comes somewhere and it has to be handled.
And traditionally, if you're landfilling it, you're just digging a hole in the ground and putting it in, covering up and walking away from it. We don't want to do that anymore. We can't do that anymore because we have to find ways of keeping that waste stream out of the ground.
We as a nation need to come together and look at waste as a resource, look at it as a problem that we all need to think about.
And the best way to keep waste out of the ground is to simply not produce it in the first place.
One of the best things that consumers can do to help with waste management is to recycle, and to recycle often and to recycle right. There are some items that can be recycled no matter where you live, things like aluminum cans, steel cans, plastic bottles numbers 1 and 2, glass bottles, cardboard, and paper materials. Those materials can be used for a better purpose. So those are resources. They would serve as feedstock for other industries. So things like cardboard and paper that you recycle are often used by paper mills to turn those into other paper products such as tissue or other cardboard boxes. So it's about saving those resources for a better use. The other reason was to save landfill space.
If you think about it, it's really about diverting waste from landfills into waste streams that make environmental sense. Next in the hierarchy is recycling.
Single stream recycling, basically you can put all of your material, you don't have to separate your paper from all of your plastics and your metals anymore. You can put it all together. Now that you can combine everything into one container, we have seen an increase up to 25% in some of our communities, increasing their tonnages because they have the wheeled carts.
All your single-stream recyclables then get processed in a MRF.
A MRF is a material recovery facility. Curbside and commercial loads of recycling come, and then the material is separated and sorted and then baled for secondary buyers to make the new products out of it.
So you can make the same product with a lower energy input through recycling than you can oftentimes with virgin materials.
All types of paper, mixed paper, cardboard is separated out of it, number one plastics, glass, tin, aluminum, everything that's basically out of their households, which is generally about 50% of the volume that we can actually recycle out of every home.
I bet you if the planet could talk, it would say, "Oh, thanks for recycling."
We have robotics that are starting to take place in recycling facilities now, where you had a person actually grabbing out that bottle. Now you have machines, you have scanners, you have a robotic arm doing that, you have jets of air doing that. We're getting to the point with technology, robotics, we can take completely mixed waste, the stuff you just throw in your garbage can, and they can process that and pull recyclables out of that. As that technology continues to evolve, we're only going to see more and more things able to be pulled out of the waste stream and given a second life.
Single-stream recycling is cool, but organics like food waste need a different solution.
We know that food waste represents somewhere 20 to 25% of all the waste that's thrown into landfills. So there's an effort to try to find a way to deal with that waste. And we took a look at what if we start out with a pilot program to just voluntarily collect food waste. About 200 households that participate in the program. We get a ton of material every month. It's brought into a biodigester and they compost it. And in that 28 days, it gets really hot and things start to break down. They collect the heat that comes off it. They collect the gases that come off it. At the end of that 28 days, it's compost and then they sell it as Titan Gold.
For really huge waste streams, you need innovative solutions to turn all that waste into resources.
Construction and demolition is gaining more popularity because we are tear it down, build a new one, tear it down kind of a society.
C&D stands for construction and demolition. It refers to the waste that comes into landfills or processing facilities like this one that's made up of house demolition, new construction. And that material traditionally goes in a landfill, but that material can also be recycled. A processing facility like this one allows for that material to be properly sorted into wood, concrete, metal, drywall, cardboard, and other materials. And from there, we further process those materials into marketable commodities. This facility, while it doesn't eliminate the amount of construction material waste that goes into landfills, it reduces it drastically, reducing that volume and the impact of the landfill, and ultimately reducing the amount of new landfills that need to be created in the future. When you look at that pile back there, you're looking at resources. You're looking at wood that used to be standing in a forest somewhere. You're looking at metal that had to be mined from the ground. You're looking at aggregate that had to come from a quarry. If we're able to recycle this material rather than landfill it, that's one less forest that we need to cut down. That's one less mine that we need to open. This facility allows us to reuse the materials that we've already put in the effort to reclaim, and allows us to minimize the amount of material that goes in a landfill and the amount of material that we need to pull from the earth.
And last year, the Tri-County group diverted over 30,000 tons of construction and demolition material to landfill reduction and recycling. And if you take that material out and replace it with municipal solid waste, it is a large value because it helps defer the cost of new landfill construction by conserving that airspace to the best of our ability.
See, now you've got some sensible solutions on how to become a better steward. But do you have any other ideas of what you could do at home? We'll explore that as we look into organics and special wastes.
Now that you're savvy with recycling, let's explore more waste stream diversions that prevent certain things from getting into our landfills. The logical place to start is with things that are banned from our landfills.
Tires are a banned item and they go to a processor that actually grinds them up, and they make a variety of products, anywhere from horse stable matting to rock climbing gym materials, playground matting, just another resource that can be reused and reintroduced to the marketplace.
Anything else?
Some of our landfill banned materials included lead acid batteries, waste oil, and appliances. We also have yard materials banned from landfill disposal and electronics, and so they take up a lot of space. Some of those materials can also have hazardous components, and so we want to make sure that those are not put into the landfill and contribute to our environment. So things like electronics may contain toxic materials, things like heavy metals, lead, mercury, cadmium, chromium, things of that nature.
Luckily, many communities offer collection events for these and other banned wastes. And some of it's scary stuff.
Well, today we're holding our annual Household Hazardous Waste Clean Sweep event. It's a place where residents can bring chemicals they might have laying around their house and safely dispose of them. It's important because if there wasn't a place like this to bring them to, it might end up getting dumped in a ditch or behind their garage or brought to a landfill, all things that harm the environment.
What kinds of household toxic stuff are we talking about?
There's an oil-based paint. Cleanup would you need to use a mineral spirits or something along those lines. Those types of paints are considered flammable. Maybe use gasoline, paint thinners. You have corrosive materials, which are like your drain cleaners, reactive type of chemicals, your bleaches, peroxides, and of course toxic materials, pesticides, your herbicides, insecticides, materials like that could be dangerous to the public. And also material like mercury or even lead.
Well, that solution is fine for typical homeowners, but my uncle's a farmer, and you should see the chemicals in his barn.
We had over 30 farms and businesses show up. They come with larger quantities and they have the same challenges that our residents do in safely disposing of their chemicals. So we invite them in the day before and we safely offload them.
So it's really the combination of different waste reduction streams that help divert all kinds of banned and unwanted stuff from our landfills.
Well, I think first and foremost, we run a recycling center and 2 yard compost waste sites. Second, we run programs like waste tire collection, electronics collection, mercury collection, as well as prescription drug collection. And this year we're going to hit the milestone of 1 million pounds of toxic chemicals that have been collected and safely disposed of, something our whole community should really be proud of.
That clearly covers tons of hazardous wastes, but I think we left out some emerging waste products that shouldn't go in landfills.
One of the emerging wastes that we're seeing that is actually problematic for the waste collection industry in general are lithium ion and lithium polymer batteries. Most devices you have in your house nowadays are lithium powered batteries. They say that a lithium battery can still retain 40% of this energy left in the battery when the battery is disposed. So even though the battery cannot hold a charge, there is still plenty enough energy in there that energy can convert and cause a spark to create a fire.
Here's an important one you might not think of. Most appliances like dehumidifiers and air conditioners can contain the refrigerant Freon. So they need specialty recycling to remove and recycle those gases, along with the metals from those appliances. It's because Freon can damage the ozone layer in our atmosphere that protects us from UV radiation. Who would have thought that protecting our ozone layer and life on the planet was part of their job? Cool. And speaking of protecting our atmosphere, what do you suppose happens with all those gases like methane being generated from our landfills?
In terms of the gas, if you look around a landfill, it looks like a big hill with a bunch of pipes sticking out of it. Every one of those pipes is a gas well. And so it's a pipe that's drilled down through the waste. It's got a bunch of holes or perforations in it. And at the top, we apply vacuum. So it's like a big straw that's sucking gas out of the garbage. We have to collect that gas and we have to destroy it. We have to destruct it so it's not damaging to the environment. That gas is 50% methane, which is extremely harmful to the ozone, to the atmosphere. So we have to destruct that gas. Oftentimes that can be done on a flare or an engine. We look at it also as an energy source. That's methane, that's energy. The natural gas that comes into your home is 96% methane. Our gas is 50% methane. So we have an energy source. So we can use that to either run a generator, produce electricity. You can take that, clean it up, produce clean natural gas, compress that. Now you have compressed natural gas. You can run vehicles on it. So you can run vehicles, you can produce electricity, you can run boilers. It's an energy source. So we're destroying that gas, protecting the environment, and we're producing renewable energy.
What you see behind me really is not only garbage. Your trash is my cash. The gas we extract from the landfill, we generate $3.5 million worth of selling electricity to the local power company.
Trash to cash. Very cool. It looks like the fictional scenes from the movie Back to the Future, where Doc Brown converts trash using a flux capacitor into vehicle fuel for his DeLorean, isn't so fictional after all.
So what happens when we collectively divert all those things from ending up in the landfill behind us? We're actually shrinking the tons of organic, recyclable, and hazardous waste that don't belong in our landfills. Okay then, the next question is, what realistic steps can you take in your daily life to help improve the waste stream going in here and be a more responsible waste steward? That's what's next.
Let's check in on how we're following that waste management hierarchy. First, we explored how source reduction makes a huge difference in shrinking the tonnage of things created and consumed before it goes into our waste stream. Then, and the word is then, we looked at some ways on how to reuse what's left. Then we followed with another then by removing the stuff that we could recycle.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. This waste management hierarchy stuff sounds fine, but how can I, one person out of millions, make a difference? Well, consider this. If each of us fails to become a steward of our waste, the cumulative effects are staggering. Just take a look at this picture of beach pollution. Each of these bottles was from just one person, each who didn't care enough to make a difference. Fortunately, you have the knowledge and power to become a good steward and to also teach others how.
So first off, realize that we're part of the problem. We're all part of the problem. But there's solutions out there, and as a society, we have to be willing to invest in those. They're a part in the chain of environmental stewards that are handling this responsibly.
Every day we wear our work shirts that have the waste hierarchy listed on the back. The first one is reduce, so single-use items I'd say is the easiest to cut out of your life to reduce your waste.
Single-use items that you're only going to use once, you should think about source reduction before you put it in your hand and you're just going to throw it away later. Do you have other more responsible options? Does it have excessive packaging that's contributing to more waste? Are you buying more of something than you're going to use? And because we're constantly influenced by marketing, do you really need that item? Or did you just think you needed it because you were marketed to want it? But let's say you do have something in your hand that you're gonna throw away. What's the next step in the waste management hierarchy? Now, before you say you can't reuse something, consider all the places you could donate for somebody else's use. Okay, now you can proceed to the next step in the waste management hierarchy.
Recycle.
Gets recycled.
To recycle. Recycle.
Well, I think recycling in general is pretty super cool because we're separating out our food waste, gets compost recycled, we're separating out our recyclable material, and then the last bit is what's ever left over. And you'd be surprised, our garbage bin is now the smallest bin in our house.
What? You're not sure what to recycle? Then go find out.
The recycling field is full of people who are willing to educate and to help you out with your questions. All you have to do is go down to your local solid waste department.
You do need to check locally to see if there are other materials you can recycle. In some parts of the state, you are able to recycle things like milk and juice cartons or plastics with a number 5 on the bottom, for instance. So the best thing that consumers can do is to check with their local community on how they can recycle as much as possible.
So instead of thinking, oh, maybe this is recyclable and I'll just throw it in the bin and hope it gets recycled, we'd really like you to check out your local program, find out what they really can accept, and then do what's right.
Of course I want to do what's right, but how can we get everybody else involved in recycling?
Kids are embracing recycling more than their parents are, and their grandparents for sure, and they get really excited when I go to schools and, yes, we can recycle that #1 bottle. Do you know it gets turned into carpet? And then their eyes get big and they're excited about it.
So I really encourage the children to involve their parents so that it can become more of a family project.
So, what else could we all do at home to reduce our waste stream? Well, there are some waste that we can process right at home, like food waste. By composting, we reduce the need for landfills drastically. Food and organic material makes up 25% of the waste stream.
It's the ultimate recycling. We're creating compost, putting it into our gardens, and growing new food.
Well, composting is such an easy way to really keep these materials out of the landfills. From your home, you can compost fruit and vegetable scraps as you're preparing your foods. You can compost coffee grounds, eggshells, and even leftover bread. These are things that are easy at home. For your backyard composting, we tell people do not put in any dairy, oil items, or meat products. Just start small, give it a try, and every little bit really does help. We would rather keep this stuff out and have a better use for it, making finished compost, which is great for landscaping, for gardens, for farms. It's a great way to get an end product and use this material differently.
Hey, Cedric, good job down there at the landfill. But oops, look, right there. I think you missed some recyclables.
Yup, looks like the garbage fairies missed this one. But the good news is that now more people understand and are empowered to take an active role in our waste management hierarchy. Plus, their simple steps every day can help spark social change so that everyone can become a more responsible steward of planet Earth.
Let's explore as we discover the wild outdoors. Science, discovery is what we do. Into the outdoors, now what you waiting for? Into the outdoors, it's fun when we explore. Science, discovery is way too cool. You can make our Earth a bright and better place by joining us in this wide open space. Into the outdoors.
The following organizations have provided funding for this Into the Outdoors television series.